Hulk, why did you start using steroids?
Well, I mean, at the time when I got in the professional wrestling business, not trying to point fingers, but everybody in all the sports.
Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on those notifications. And once you're done, leave a comment down below and I just might end up responding. Vince McMahon has a really weird position on this earth if you think about it. He's in charge of a large roster of men and women who are told to run out in the middle of a ring and perform choreographed fighting to an audience of millions watching around the globe. When you think about it, Vincent Kennedy really is something of a puppet master. But once all the puppets get loose from their chains, they've got secrets to tell. I'm D Wicket, and these are the 10 shocking confessions made by wrestlers after leaving the WWE. Number 10, why Gail wasn't a champion.
If you saw me in WWE, I was a completely different person. I walked on eggshells, which no one should ever feel that way.
Well, to be fair, she was a champion for 4 weeks when she debuted back in 2003. I didn't even know that. I knew she had the title at some point. I didn't know it was in 2003, and I didn't know it was only for 4 weeks. I did know she was horribly used, and well, that's because Vince McMahon is known for a controversial opinion or two, you know, like believing that he deserved a historic W over God himself. He's also compared himself directly to God, completely unrelated to beating him, just believing himself to be a legitimate living God. Because of this, we've gotten his opinion that an entire race can be written off as unlovably and uninvestably ugly when it was revealed by JR that Vince didn't believe men found Asian women attractive enough to put the women's title on Kim for longer than a month. That's like actually how he chooses who has the women's title. At least it was during the Divas era. That's fucking scary.
An elimination. And that was Melina who was eliminated. And I believe another elimination as well. Gail Kim, I think.
Number 9, low ball payment. Multiple former WWE performers, including Alberto Del Rio and Ryback, have come out over the last few years with statements against the company for their severe lack of fair payment. While the top tier wrestlers like Seth Rollins and John Cena will never need to worry about doing literally anything else ever, if you aren't on top, you probably aren't doing that well. The numbers of mid-card talent and below aren't impossible to live off of, but when you take into consideration the vigorous, constantly moving, constantly changing life of a pro wrestler, all those expenses, all those trips, all the travel, including the unpaid benefits barring surgery, those numbers start looking a bit iffy. With AEW on the rise and the independents doing better than ever before, this is looking to be an especially troublesome confession if it continues to be true.
Brett's going to have to live with that for the rest of his life. Brett screwed Brett. I have no sympathy whatsoever.
Number 8, CM Punk fired on his wedding day.
CM Punk, will you marry me?
A lot of people would call Vince McMahon petty, and I'm going to guess that Charles Montgomery Punk, there's one for you, is probably now one of them. At least as of 5 years ago on June 13th, 2014, the day Phillip Brooks married AJ Lee, when Vince McMahon sent Mr. Brooks his severance papers. Can you honestly imagine being fired on your goddamn wedding day? Like, isn't that supposed to be the happiest day of your life? The day you and your loved one become one, and Vince McMahon just up there with a funnel on top of you just shitting all over the parade. Apparently he didn't have any idea and it was completely unintentional, but I am very suspicious over that circumstance.
No! 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 No!
Number 7, Triple H beating... Oh. Number 7, Triple H cheating on CHYNA.
Why didn't you tell me about CHYNA on Monday?
Tell you what about CHYNA?
About the hug, about everything. Why didn't you?
Big yikes. Big yikes indeed, as CHYNA made it very clear how horribly she was treated after her time in WWE. To summarize it quickly, CHYNA is dating Triple H. CHYNA is pushed high in the company. CHYNA finds out that Stephanie McMahon, CEO's daughter, is now fucking Triple H.
What in the world? What did she say? What did Stephanie say to CHYNA? She's had it.
CHYNA takes this information to CEO, Mr. Vince McMahon, and then he's like, yeah, you got us, and then she gets fired for finding out that she was being cheated on. That's big yikes territory.
She isn't going to quit here. I thought these two had a great relationship. There you go, Helsley.
Number 6, The Rock calls CM Punk.
You think I'm kidding, but I'm going to call CM Punk right now.
This might not be a confession so much as it is just a revealing moment. Mainly, The Rock once again reproved to us that he doesn't give a shit, doesn't need to follow any rules, and can do quite literally whatever in the fuck he wishes.
Hey, Punk, it's Rock. This is not a joke. I'm literally calling it from the middle of the Staples Center with about 15,000 strong.
Remember Punk being fired on his wedding day? Remember that incredible disdain he has for this company? Yeah, there's a reason WWE was not happy with Rocky when he went backstage after this. This is what happens when CM Punk chants go a little bit too far.
They are chanting your name. CM Punk! CM Punk! CM Punk! CM Punk! CM Punk!
Number 5, Kurt Angle's Vicodin addiction.
I went to WWE and I broke my neck. I was prescribed painkillers for the first time in my life. It was 2003. And when I took the first one, I loved it.
It's horrifying to think of the life that Kurt Angle has lived. Between broken necks and alcoholism, the wrestling machine has been through quite a bit. Between all the bumps and bruises, the pain of a wrestler can really start to add up. Unfortunately, when worse comes to worse, sometimes that pain is just too much to try beating on your own. Painkillers can be alright, in very, very moderate moderation, especially helpful in some cases, but no one should get to the point of requiring 65, yes, 65 Vicodin on the daily. Kurt Angle, how are you still alive?
So I had to take 2. And then 2 ran into 4, 4 ran to 8. I was taking 65 extra strength Vicodin a day. That could kill a horse.
Number 4, The Ultimate Warrior's homophobic tirades.
That homosexuals?
Oh, Jesus.
Homosexuality? You don't have an orgasm on me, honey.
Well, these aren't pleasant to listen to. The Ultimate Warrior was one of the most legendary wrestlers of the 80s, one of the most unlegendary wrestlers of the 90s, and one of the biggest disappointments of the 2000s, before somehow going full circle in 2014, both metaphorically with his Hall of Fame speech about everyone being a warrior, and literally when he kicked the bucket the day after.
Let me phrase this correctly. Let me come down off my politically correct horse.
Unfortunately, no Hall of Fame speech would have been good enough to remove Warrior's thoughts on gay people from our memories.
Queers are as legitimate as heterosexuals.
How are they not?
Because queering doesn't make the world work.
Number 3, Shawn Michaels wrestled drunk. Yeah, we are not surprised. Shawn Michaels, legendary backstage dick nozzle that he was, had somewhat infamous for his drug addiction, just a little bit. With painkillers being his poison similar to Angle, a danger is immediately brought up as painkillers mix very easily with just about anything and can lead to some very, very deadly scenarios. While we luckily still do have Shawn Michaels till this day, even though he wrestled at Crown Jewel, we haven't gotten him without stories of his older asshole days, and yeah, he confirmed what a lot of us already knew. When Michaels wasn't feeling it, he'd hit the bottle before hitting the ring.
Nose again! I don't know if something's gonna look like Pinocchio after this. Well, let him go. Andy, right back into the same hold. And
Number 2, Steve Austin assaults Deborah.
whoa! Deborah just cleaned her husband's clock with a cookie tray! What the hell has gotten into Deborah?
And the fun just keeps on flowing, alright. Back in his own days of alcoholism and personal demons, Stone Cold Steve Austin physically assaulted the face of his then wife, Deborah.
You have no right to run me down like you do. How dare you? That is not the way you treat your wife. You should be ashamed.
It was a very rough encounter, and despite the fact that Steve Austin is undeniably one of the biggest legends in WWE and professional wrestling as a whole history, this goes to show you that anyone and everyone is fully capable of committing a crime. A very serious crime at that.
And I forgot to say, thank you.
And number 1, Hulk Hogan does the unthinkable and admits to steroids.
Well, I mean, at the time when I got in the professional wrestling business, not trying to point fingers, but everybody in all the sports industries were using them.
Now, I don't want to ruin professional wrestling for you, or even worse, ruin your childhood. God forsake. But Hulk Hogan used steroids. Actually, scratch that. I'm not sure if I can even use the past tense, because holy shit, have you seen this man's arms? Well, back in 1994, during that infamous steroid scandal, the biggest opponent Vince had was Hulk Hogan, oddly enough, who didn't only admit that 80% of the WWF roster, including himself, had been gassing up, but that Vinnie Mac himself had been the supplier.
Infiltrate the dealers, find the supply.
What if we find the supplier first? We don't have to worry about the dealer.
God damn. Infiltrate the dealers, find the supplier.
And those are 10 shocking confessions that wrestlers made after wrestling. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments down below after liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and notifications-ing that god-forsaken bell.